Welcome, one and all, to the Hammer Territory Podcast. My name is Shawn Coleman. Hope wherever you are and wherever you are listening, you have had a great week so far. And you know what? It wasn't the best of weekends if you're a Braves fan, but it's been a pretty good weekend on the field. Some really fun news to follow off the field over the past couple of days with updates on Ronald Acuna Jr. and Spencer Strider, which we'll get to in just a moment. But, Steven, we've got another series win to talk about, as always, here with my podcast partner, one of the best of the game, covering the Braves, Stephen Tolbert. Hey, it was awesome to see the Braves win this series, but what really stood out in this series, and we're going to do it in just a moment, is it was the youngins that helped us out. The youngins stepped up big time this week, especially AJ Smith-Shawver on Thursday.
Yeah, what's up, buddy? It was a good series win. They won 3 out of 4 against Washington, which they needed to do at the bare minimum. The offense is still not completely there, and we're going to talk about some key parts, specifically Riley and Olsen here in a minute. But when one part of your team is not going as well as you would hope, you need other parts to step up, and the starting pitching has been unbelievable. And today was no different with AJ Smith-Shawver. And you know, they're doing their job and giving the offense a chance to score enough runs late in games. And the bullpen had one blow up in this series on Wednesday. But other than that, the bullpen has been pretty solid. So we're still waiting on the offense. We're still not fully there, but it's nice to be winning without that part of the team right now, because we know that once it comes, and there might be some help coming pretty soon, that this team could really go on a roll and win 10 out of 12 or 12 out of 14 or 15 out of 20 or something like that. So it is a weird feeling. The Braves have been winning. 3 out of 4 is no joke. That helps a lot going into Boston, but we're still kind of waiting on the offense to really look like the offense that we expect them to look like. So, but 3 out of 4 is 3 out of 4. So you take it. We're on to Boston.
Yeah, the thing that I'll say is this, is that we kind of been playing the waiting game, right? We're waiting on Acuna. We're waiting on Strider. We're waiting on multiple aspects of this team to get hot at the same time. Well, the thing that we didn't necessarily know that was going to be worth waiting on, but has clearly emerged, especially this week, and it's wonderful to see, is the contributions from Drake Baldwin as well as AJ Smith-Shawver. And it very much feels like 2002 all over again, where we saw what, hey, both Spencer Strider, he came into the rotation around Memorial Day. Michael Harris II got called up, and it was bananas from that point on, with them winning 1-2 in the Rookie of the Year vote in 2022. I'm not getting ahead of myself. I'm not saying that's going to be the case this year when it comes to Baldwin and Strider in AJ Smith-Shawver. I am saying that they are clearly putting themselves in contention for the NL Rookie of the Year, which is a wide open race right now. But both of them are contributing, and not just with a, hey, good start here, good start there. They're putting together multiple weeks of contributions. Like, for instance, AJ Smith-Shawver, over his past 5 starts, 30 innings pitched, 30 strikeouts, a 1.5 ERA. The last rookie to do that was Paul Skeens. Before him, it was Jose Fernandez. You look at the names of what AJ Smith-Shawver, you look at the names that have done in the past, what AJ Smith-Shawver has done over his past 5 starts, it's a pretty awesome starting pitching. You look at names that have done what Drake Baldwin has done as a catcher through his first 25 games. It's some pretty awesome names. The point that I'm getting at is the contributions that you're seeing from our young rookies, it's notable. Not because of how much it's helping the Braves, but also because other players that have come before them who have done the same thing are pretty awesome talents in baseball. And it's really good to see that, once again, some youngins are stepping up and they're performing big time when the Braves need it most.
Yeah, I really didn't have on my bingo card at any point saying, man, I wish Matt Olson and Austin Riley were doing their job as well as Bryce Elder and AJ Smith-Shawver have been doing their job. And you could extend that to Drake Baldwin as well. Drake Baldwin is so much better than I thought he was. The prospect guys have been talking him up the last year or so, and he had really good numbers at AAA. But until you see a guy perform in the majors, you really don't know. And literally every single time he gets into a game, he does something to help the team every single time. It's incredible. And listen, Snit talked about it a couple of nights ago. We're like, he has been so good that he has actually worked his way into more playing time, despite the fact that Sean Murphy has also been extremely good. Both these guys have, I think, like Murphy has like an 840 OPS, like something like that, which is outstanding for a catcher. I mean, it's outstanding offensive production out of a catcher. And even with that, Drake has been so good that he has actually fought his way into more playing time, which is completely understandable if you're Snit. That's how good this kid looks every single time. And then AJ, I mean, we said it, I think we said it a couple times in the offseason. Because the Braves did not go and add a starter, they needed either Smith-Shawver or Waldrop to take a step forward. And the Braves were clearly banking on one of these guys taking a step forward. And listen, when the pitching was kind of out of whack last year and they needed a starter for game one of the playoffs, they picked AJ Smith-Shawver. So they clearly think extremely highly of this kid. And he's still only a kid. He's 22 years old. And people forget that, how young he is. But man, does he look good. The strikeouts are up. The walks are down. The command is better. I understand the competition he's faced the last few weeks have not been the greatest, but they're still major league hitters. You still got to throw strikes. You still can't walk them. They can still beat you. Washington's got a plenty good offense to beat you. They've got some really good hitters in that offense. And he's just looked awesome, man. He's just looked awesome. And I'm so happy for him. You know, obviously they made the decision today to keep him. We'll talk about that in a second. Now that Strider's coming back, but what an unbelievable boost it's been for these two kids to come up and play the way they have. While we're waiting on some of the more proven vets to do their job, these young kids have really gone above and beyond what we expected. So it's been unbelievable.
And I feel like the big thing for me is that I think the Braves have recognized something that sometimes teams make much more complicated than they need to. And that's just keeping things simple. Go with what right now is allowing for them to be successful. What I mean by that is that, listen, I know that it would be great if Atlanta would potentially experiment with or, further look into the idea of playing Shawn Murphy as well as Drake Baldwin more often. But that could potentially take the kid out of his comfort zone because you're not removing Shawn Murphy from playing catcher. The big thing for the Braves right now is they're taking advantage of the best catching situation in the game. When one starts, you utilize the other in a smart situation late in the game. Yeah, it's not as good as both of them starting, but it still is probably the most effective way to use them right now. And then with AJ Smith-Shawver, they bumped him up, bumped him down, bumped him up, bumped him down in the past. Right now, his upside is worth more banking on than what you're getting from Bryce Elder. We'll get to that in just a minute. But I do think that it's key for the Braves. They're seeing them be successful. They have them both in defined roles right now. So the fact that the Braves are showing confidence in both youngsters by telling them, hey, here's your role. You keep playing well. We're going to keep putting more on your plate because we trust you more. That confidence, I think, is fueling the consistency of both being big contributors.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Braves have yo-yoed some pitchers in the past to their detriment. Kyle Wright is the first name that comes to mind. And listen, I get it. It's tough. When you're trying to win a World Series, that is not a good environment to develop young players, typically. The best situation for a young player is to play on a bad team because the results don't matter. You're just trying to develop your best players. Well, the Braves haven't been a bad team in 8 years. I mean, they've been in the playoffs literally every year for the last 7 years. So it's not a great environment typically for young players. And so the Braves young players have to come up and have to immediately contribute to winning or they don't stay. And that's what makes what AJ Smith-Shawver and Drake Baldwin doing are so special because these guys are immediately in substantially impacting winning on a nightly basis. I mean, these at-bats that Drake Baldwin are having in late clutch situations against left-handed relievers, against tough pitching, I can't even begin to describe to you some of these at-bats he's having as a rookie. And I get he's an older rookie. He is 24, but still he's a rookie. He's seeing most of these pitchers for the first time. And the at-bats he's putting up are like a 10-year vet. It's incredible. And that's really what's special about this is again, with Braves prospects specifically or any good team, if you're not contributing to winning, you're not staying up here because the Braves are trying to win a World Series. And these guys are, I mean, they have been godsends for the Braves. Drake Baldwin probably specifically with how much the offense has been the problem this year. And so, yeah, that's been the special part is that they're not just in a vacuum on a bad team having good seasons. They are contributing to winning for a team that is trying to win. And that's on another level of performance.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, this Braves team needs as much trustworthy sources as they can have to contribute to winning. And if that's coming from sources that are also becoming more and more evident to be big parts of your future, that makes it even better. But we'll discuss, speaking of big parts of your future coming back in the present, we'll discuss that in just a moment after this word from our partners.
Hey, for the card collectors out there, you need to know about Arena Club. You can check out our showrooms. We've all got cards in there. You can buy, you can sell, you can trade, and you can rip packs. They're called slab packs, Kratz. And then what happens if you don't like what you pulled?
You get an instant offer. You get an instant offer, but before you get that instant offer, you can show your showroom around, kind of like when I used to put the cards in the sleeves and my buddies would come over and show them. Now, bang, show them on the phone. Instant offers right there if I need it.
Yep, that instant offer is for the estimated fair market value. Accept it on the spot. Acquire the best value for your money with Slab Packs, transparent checklists, and Arena Club's Slab Safe program. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, grading, or ripping packs, Arena Club is the safest, most trusted in the game. Right now, you can get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/foul and use code FOUL. That's arenaclub.com/foul, code FOUL.
Welcome back to the Hammer Territory Podcast. Plenty of things to discuss this week. Again, it's just good to be able to sit here and have conversations when the Braves are back to winning. Now, again, 7 games above 500 since that road trip started. One of the best records in baseball, one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. And the big thing, Steven, is that it's likely going to get even better very, very soon because we finally, I know that we've already been through this once this season, but we do have in mind when Spencer Strider is going to be returning from his hamstring injury. We'd heard over the past 7 to 10 days him ramping up a bit. Was he going to get a rehab start? What have you? It looks like that's not the case. Next week when the Braves are in Washington on the road, Spencer Strider will make a start for the Braves. The exact date is not known, but what is known is that it is going to happen because Bryce Elder, despite pitching very well here recently, Bryce Elder was optioned down to the minor leagues. Now, the corresponding move is not going to necessarily be Strider. Likely is going to be a bullpen arm for the next few days. But I do think that it's big to know, hey, we now know, we talked about it being imminent. Yes, we know Spencer Strider is right around the corner. But the other thing that I think is interesting to discuss is that we talked about it. Grant Holmes, AJ Smith-Shawver, and Bryce Elder have all been very good as of late. But what it simply comes down to is where do you get your most value? Grant Holmes going to the bullpen because the Braves don't seem to be using a 6-man rotation. He's more lined up for that. That's why he's staying. AJ Smith-Shawver, he's simply a more upside play and a bigger part of your future and present. That's why he's staying. Bryce Elder, unfortunately, was the odd man out, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have a good chance of contributing later this year.
Yeah, this was interesting. So we knew this was coming at some point. We knew Strider was coming back. And we've been talking about this for like 2 weeks now about what the corresponding move would be. Now, obviously, in the short term, the Braves option Elder today because they're going to bring up a reliever to have an extra reliever in Boston. And then when Strider comes up on probably Tuesday, that reliever will be optioned. So, but for all intents and purposes, Elder was the corresponding move for Strider. And this was interesting because it really could have gone multiple ways. The fact that they chose to do it in Washington obviously meant that they wanted, Grant Holmes is scheduled to pitch in Boston. So if they wanted Holmes to be the corresponding move, Strider would have probably come back for the Boston series. But because they waited until the Washington series when Elder was scheduled to pitch, they clearly wanted Elder. I understand it. That's the move I would have made. I did think there was an argument for moving Grant Holmes to the bullpen and DFAing either Montero, De Los Santos, somebody that I don't trust a lot because I think Grant Holmes is a better reliever than either of those guys. Brad did make the point today in our group chat, and I thought it was a good point that there is some danger in shortening up Grant Holmes and not having him as an option to start. If Bryce Elder goes out and gets lit up his next time, then are you kind of right back to where you would have been, where you're like, well, I kind of wish we'd kept Grant Holmes in the rotation and just option Bryce Elder. So I get it. I certainly get it. I definitely would have kept AJ Smith-Shawver above everybody else because he's got more upside. The guy was throwing 97, 98, 99 today. This is the move I would have probably done. It sucks for Bryce Elder. He does not deserve to be optioned. I was thinking today, if Grant Holmes had options and Bryce Elder didn't, I do wonder if that would have been the reverse today. Sometimes it is you have options and the other guy doesn't. Grant Holmes doesn't have options. And AJ Smith-Shawver is one of the best prospects on the team. Elder just kind of got the short straw there. And it sucks for him because he's been awesome. Full capital letter A awesome for the last 4 or 5 starts. So I'm guessing Elder will be back up at some point. He's earned another chance. I do not trust Bryce Elder, to be perfectly clear. I don't think Bryce Elder is a long-term answer in the rotation. I think he's more of a AAA, maybe quad A starter, more of a depth piece than a significant contributor. But even I have to admit the last 3 weeks, he's been awesome. So he did not deserve to be optioned. You can't have 27 guys on the roster. So sucks for him. I do understand the move. It is the move I would have made. And now we get to see Spencer Strider back against Washington, probably on Tuesday is my guess. And that's going to be unbelievable. I mean, even though the pitching has already been really good and the starting pitching specifically, getting Strider back is just, I have this opinion that Strider and Acuna both have this kind of FU attitude that I love, that I think the Braves miss when neither guy is there, because the Braves have a lot of all shucks guys. And I think they miss a little attitude, quite honestly, especially when things aren't going great. And so that, on top of the talent of getting Strider and Acuna back, getting the attitude that Strider and Acuna bring to the clubhouse, I think is not a small thing. And so having those guys both back pretty soon, unbelievable. Can't wait. Couldn't be more excited.
Absolutely. I don't think many would debate it. Your best overall offensive talent on the team is Ronald Acuna Jr. when healthy. Your best overall pitching talent on the team is Spencer Strider when healthy. But listen, a person can have all the talent in the world. What makes it even better is when they know it. And not to the point of being arrogant, but know that it changes a culture, and it's what sets the tone for them realizing that they're the main reasons why you can win and win big because of them, and they want to act like it. And both of those guys not only know that, but they want to get back to doing it. So it's going to be great to have them back. But again, we go back to, as awesome as Baldwin and Smith-Shawver have been, as well as others have been here recently. Marcell Ozuna had a very good series. He got back to his run-producing skills that we're all used to seeing. 2 names, though, stand out when it comes to this Braves team. And I mention this because the Braves scored 5 runs today. They are 14-1 when they score 5 runs this season. They've actually won 14 straight games when they score 5 runs this season. The problem is they're 25th in the majors in scoring 5+ runs in games this season. I'm not saying all that to say that the number 5 is really important. What's really important is how we get to 5+ runs more frequently, and 2 names can be a big part of that. Austin Riley as well as Matt Olson. Now, Matt Olson, we're used to the streakiness. It happens for multiple weeks at a time. Right now, he's going through a cold streak. Austin Riley, he's getting on base. I think 18 straight games now getting on base. But he's not doing much at the plate, and he's not also doing much in big moments. That high strikeout rate, especially with runners on, still stands out. The Braves need both of those guys to get going. They've gotten going earlier this year. If they can get back, coupled with Acuna coming back, that's really what can fuel that 10, maybe 12, game stretch where we're above 800 winning percentage if those guys can get going.
Yeah, listen, I mean, these guys hold the 2 biggest contracts the Atlanta Braves have ever handed out to any player ever. Austin Riley is 1, Matt Olson is 2. The 2 biggest contracts in franchise history. So it is completely fair to hold them to a higher standard than just being good or above average, especially when Ronald Acuna Jr. is out. You need those dudes to be studs, like all-star elite level studs. And they have not gotten that this year. And it's fair to say that. And I think Austin Riley and Matt Olson would be the first to tell you that they have not lived up to their end of the bargain this year. Now, they've each had moments. Austin's had a couple of hot streaks, but also Austin's also had a couple of unbelievable cold streaks. Both of these guys are streaky as hell. We've seen it the last couple of years when the summer months come, Austin Riley turns into Barry Bonds. We've seen Matt Olson get on absolute red hot tears. And we've also seen both guys look like they're lost in the sauce. Both of those guys at different times in the last 2 or 3 weeks have looked like they're completely in the weeds. Austin's strikeout numbers have gone way, way up this year. His walk numbers have gone down. He's kind of swinging at those sliders off the plate that we saw in his rookie year that he had really corrected. So I don't know what to make of that. I think he is pressing. I think both these guys are pressing. I think it's mental on a lot of levels. We were watching Matt Olson just swing through every single fastball. It doesn't matter. It could be 99. It could be 89. He's swinging through it, which tells you it's mechanical. It's mental. It's not like this dude doesn't have the ability to hit an 89-mile-an-hour fastball. It's all in his head right now. And the Braves need more. And I think those two dudes specifically might benefit most from having Ronald back. I think having an alpha on the team and allowing those two guys to be, kind of the next best guys, I think will help. I don't think it's a coincidence. 2 of the best years we ever saw from those guys, with Austin Riley was with Freddie Freeman as the best hitter, with Matt Olson when Ronald Acuna Jr. was the best hitter. So I'm very curious to see what happens when Ronald comes back. If those guys pick up their game, it will be the summer months. So maybe that will be the key. But listen, it is absolutely fair to say the Braves need more from Austin Riley and Matt Olson. That's 100% fair. 2 biggest contracts in franchise history. They need more out of those guys.
And we've seen plenty of proof as to why they have the 2 biggest contracts in franchise history. And one of the big reasons why is both of them have performed quite well against quality competition. Well, that's what's about to happen. You're about to see an uptick in competition, especially the quality of pitching that this team will be facing over the next several weeks. So those 2 getting going will be huge. But perhaps the biggest news of all, and perhaps the biggest appearance of all when it came to baseball today, was not at Truist Park. It's going on right now as we record for the Gwinnett Stripers. And Stephen, I think you may have an update or two on a certain outfielder making his 2025 organizational debut on a rehab assignment.
Yeah, so he played in the Complex League on, what night was that? Tuesday night. And he hit a home run in a bomb. Everybody, if you're on Twitter, you're online at all, you probably saw it. There was about 20 different camera angles of people recording him. And he hit a bomb. We're talking about Ronald Acuna Jr., of course. And so immediately after that game, he told one of the Spanish reporters that he's flying to Atlanta that night and then going to be playing with Gwinnett. I don't fully understand why they had him play in the Complex League for 1 game. Maybe just to give maybe the homer. Well, they were like, all right, he doesn't need to be here anymore. Maybe that's what it was. But he got on a plane, flew immediately to Atlanta, actually met with the media yesterday, met with SNIT, met with the team. He actually apologized for the social media stuff earlier in the year. Him and SNIT got into it online. And then he went to Gwinnett. And first at bat tonight, I'm actually tracking it on my phone as we're recording because the game literally started right when we started recording. 106-mile-an-hour single. First at bat of the game. He's leading off for Gwinnett. So we're in it now. I mean, we're full in rehab assignment. You and I talked on our last show about once he officially starts a rehab assignment, he can only be down for 20 days. That clock has officially started. I doubt he'll be down for 20 days at this point. He looks fantastic. He told the reporters yesterday he feels 100%, which was music to my ears. I was not expecting to see the 100%. I was expecting like 90, 85, 90 will work up to 100. And the dude's already hitting missiles. I mean, absolute missiles. So here we go. It's going to be interesting how long they go. Again, there's a 20-day max. I don't think he'll get anywhere close to that 20 days. I mean, there's talk. Justin Toscano yesterday, I mean, he was guessing, but he talked about the Braves' next homestand. As soon as the Braves' next homestand, Ronald could be back. We'll see. I can't wait. I mean, I'm so ready to see Ronald Acuna Jr. play baseball again. And the fact that he's already hitting the ball this well in the minors, he looks like he's running around. They're going to obviously let him play, take a day off, play in the outfield, take a day off, see how he feels, all that stuff. But, I mean, he's close. He's very close.
Absolutely. And as everybody knows, when Ronald Acuna Jr. comes back into the fold, he's going to make a big impact. But after a word from our partners, I'm going to talk with Steven about a particular area where I think that if he can just get right back to contributing like he always has in this aspect of the game, it will really, really help the Braves offense get more consistent.
This is a straightforward show, so I'm going to be very straightforward with everyone about PXG. Fastest way to improve your performance on the golf course is to get yourself a PXG golf fitting. Go in there and let the experts help you.
I've been using PXG for a few years now, Scotty. They are perfect. I love the way they feel. They fit them perfectly to my swing. They weighted them. They put grips in them. They put shafts in them. They use their heads, and they fit my swing beautifully. They have definitely improved my game. They just recently hooked me up with their new Allen putter, which is off the chain. I was draining putts the other day, left and right. So I definitely say go get your fitting at PXG. Nobody goes golf the way PXG does.
Yes, and for a limited time, you could save up to 20% on your entire order. Head over to pxg.com/Val. That's pxg.com/FOUL to save up to 20% on your entire order. pxg.com/Val. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Steven, if you go back to 2023, you obviously remember how historical this offense was. Many were writing, thought pieces about how the Braves offense that year could have been a top 5 offense of all time. And one of the biggest reasons why was because of the home run. But Steven, do you remember how often we got off to good starts? How often we got the lead in games? How historically good we were in the first inning? Did it not just build your confidence each game when we got those leads early, Steven?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking. You're talking about lead. You're talking about lead off first inning. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And that, to me, we talk about, listen, at the end of the day, keeping it high level, Ronald Acuna Jr. is going to help out in so many different areas. But again, I go back to this Braves team being able to score 5 or more runs more often. And when they do, they're going to be very, very successful. And they're fully capable of doing it. But since 2019, there are 4 teams that have an 800 or higher OPS in the first inning. That is the Dodgers, that is the Yankees, that is the Astros, and that is the Braves. The reason why those 4 teams are that high, are the best in first inning over that stretch of time, is because 8 of the 15 players with the highest single OPSs in the first inning over that time play for those teams. Aaron Judge, Shohei, Mookie, Freddie, Austin, Acuna, as well as Jose Altuve and Yordan Alvarez. I name all those players to say this. When Ronald Acuna Jr. comes back, he's going to make a big impact out of that first spot. Number 1, because of his offensive potential. Number 2, because he's going to be getting more plate appearances than anyone. But being able to get the ball rolling against quality pitching competition when they're at their best and giving our pitchers leads, that is going to be a huge difference. The Braves right now are 26th in first inning OPS and 26th in first inning runs in 2025. If they can at least get back to league average when it comes to first inning production, I think that can make all the difference in the world. And again, Steven, can get back to being a reason why we could fuel that 10 to 12 game stretch where we win 8 to 9 games.
Yeah, I mean, listen, everybody talks about when Ronald came back in 22 after the first ACL, he was a shell of himself. And the one thing I would point out there is that shell of himself, Ronald Acuna Jr. in 2022 still had a 351 on base percentage. That's what shell of himself Ronald Acuna Jr. did. Still had a 351 on base percentage, which would be like the second highest on the team right now. So even if Ronald isn't like capital A Acuna, just having that on base percentage in the leadoff spot is going to be so valuable. He just takes so many walks. And, we talk about walks a lot, with Michael Harris or Ozzie Albies or Jared Kelenic about the lack of walks. Walks are so incredibly valuable to offensive production. I think the general fan base or, just baseball fans in general don't fully get how important walks are. And Ronald always runs like a 15% walk rate. And even when you're not, that's why they're so important, because even when you're not doing great offensively in terms of your batting average or your hits, when you're on base that much, your floor is just so much higher. And that's what I'm looking forward to with Ronald. Even if he's not like all-star level Ronald Acuna Jr., I know for a fact that he's probably going to run at least a 350 on base percentage out of that leadoff spot, which means the Braves are going to have much more opportunities, like you're talking about, scoring in the first inning. It seems like every game through the first 3 innings, they get no hit. And then at some point around the 4th or 5th inning, maybe they score a couple runs. Usually they wait until about the 8th inning to do anything. I'm kind of sick of that. I'm ready for some first inning runs again. I'm ready to jump out ahead of teams instead of always having to come back or hope the pitching staff can throw a no-hitter for 5 innings because the offense hasn't done anything. That's what I can't wait for. And yes, of course, Acuna can also just make the game 1-0 on the first pitch, which we have barely seen at all this year out of the leadoff spot. I think Michael Harris has like 1 home run out of the leadoff spot, and I don't think any of the other leadoff options have hit a home run. I know Verdugo hasn't. So I think the Braves have 1 homer this year out of the leadoff spot. It might be 2. I might be forgetting one, but that's what I'm ready for. I'm ready for a guy who can make it 1-0 on the first pitch, who can get on base at a high clip, can steal a bag. I can't wait. Can't wait. Cannot wait for Ronald Acuna Jr. to be back in a Braves uniform.
And then just think about it. We saw Drake Baldwin hitting in the second spot today, which I think was actually, I'll give credit to Brian Snicker. It was a smart move. But, again, I mentioned Austin Riley was one of the best in recent baseball history when it came to first inning production as well. Having Ronald there just also sets everybody else in such a good spot. It just deepens this lineup so much more, and it's going to be really easy to see. Well, to turn a complete 180, if you're a fan of offense, tomorrow night's pitching matchup in the Braves versus Red Sox at Fenway Park is not the game for you, but it's going to be a really, really fun game to see. Tomorrow night, it's going to be Chris Sale against Garrett Crochet. Chris Sale's return to Boston. And Stephen, the thing that I'll say is this, is that it's not only just an awesome pitching matchup between last year's Cy Young winner and one of the best pitchers currently in the game, a contender for the AL Cy Young this year in Crochet, but it also needs to be said just how much Sale and Crochet's careers have kind of followed each other. Both started off as dominant lefties who potentially could have projected as relievers for the White Sox. They turned into pitchers. Both of them have similar repertoires when it comes to what makes them effective, what makes them dominant, and both eventually left the White Sox and were traded to the Red Sox. It's pretty crazy how similar their careers are, but it's going to be a lot of fun to see that pitching matchup. To me, the key for the Braves against Crochet, and in order to support Sale, who's been very good as of late, is again that early success. There was a better approach at the plate overall for this team this week against the Nationals. If they can carry that over to tomorrow night, though runs will be at a premium, they could find themselves in a close game and could get the job done, but it's going to be a really exciting pitching matchup to watch.
Yeah, how about that? How about Chris Sale versus Garrett Crochet? Like you just said, the similarities of them are actually pretty wild. On top of them both being these kind of funky left-handed starters, they started with the same team, got traded to the same team. I guess Garrett Crochet is going to be a Brave at some point. And by the way, I've heard from people that Garrett Crochet was almost a Brave in the offseason. The Braves just didn't want to give up a guy who's currently on the team who's hitting pretty well. But yeah, there's probably not going to be a lot of offense on Friday night. At least I think Sale has come. I think we're to the point now where we can say Sale has completely turned around, kind of back to 2024 Sale. He had that weird start. A lot of it was batted ball stuff. And we try to tell people, don't freak out too much about this batted ball stuff. There's no way it's going to last. And it really hasn't lasted. The Red Sox are a weird team. I've actually followed the Red Sox quite a bit this year just because the Rafael Devers stuff was weirdly fascinating to me. They have like 2 uber elite prospects, like 2 of the top 5 prospects in baseball, and Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer in AAA, and like could be called up any day. I actually thought maybe they might get called up for this series because the Red Sox have been kind of floundering lately. No indication that that's happening, but yeah, the Red Sox are a weird team. The Braves, I feel like the Braves don't play great in Boston. I was actually in Boston a couple of years ago when the Braves were up there, and I think they got swept in that series. And so maybe that's anecdotal. I haven't actually looked it up. I know in 2020 they had a pretty good series in Boston, but
2 straight games with the guy hitting 3 home runs.
Yeah, that's right. Adam Duvall and Marcelo Ozuna did it back-to-back games. And I think they scored like 20 runs in that game or something like that. So yeah, it's been kind of, hit and miss in Boston, but it's going to be a fun series. I think the Braves have more talent than the Red Sox. I think that's fair to say. Some Boston fans might push back on that. I don't know. Maybe that's not fair. I think it's fair. I think they have more talent. I would say you should probably expect to win 2 out of 3. Boston is not the greatest team, but it's on the road. You're facing Garrett Crochet. Listen, Garrett Crochet absolutely shut the Braves down last year when he was with the White Sox. I think the White Sox won like a 2-1 game with him on the mound against the Braves. So, they could get dominated tomorrow. We'll see. But yeah, it'll be a fun matchup. Sale versus Crochet is big time stuff. Nobody would be surprised if Crochet won a Cy Young at some point. He signed that big contract with Boston. I think he signed like a $170 million contract with Boston. So he's going to be there for a while. But yeah, it could very well be, the 2024 Cy Young against the 2025 Cy Young if his season keeps going the way it has. And it'll be a good game. I hope the Braves can win a low scoring game. They've saved Rocio Iglesias the last couple of games, so he'll be available in that game. Or no, he pitched today. I'm sorry, he did end up pitching today because the Braves gave up a run there. But the bullpen is in decent shape. They should be able to hold a small lead tomorrow if they need to, because I think it's going to be a low scoring game, if I'm honest. So we'll see. It could be it should be a good game tomorrow. I'm hoping. I really would love to see the Braves take 2 out of 3, but I don't know if that's a fair expectation at this point.
Yeah, and the other thing that stands out to me is that, if you were to split May in half, which we're about to, the other big thing that's going to stand out is this. When you're talking about them facing Washington or Colorado at the end of April or Cincinnati, those are 3 of the worst bullpens in baseball. Going through the rest of May into early June, that script flips. You're going to be facing some of the best bullpens in baseball. Boston right now, their bullpen ERA is 5th in the majors. So the whole formula of winning late is going to have to be either continued with us doing it against some of the best bullpens in baseball, or again, we're going to have to score early. So that's the big part about it. If we want to start winning, scoring early is going to have to be part of that formula, because it's just going to get tougher against some of these teams that we're going to be facing. And I think that is what stands out. The other thing that stands out to me in this series is I'm going to be very interested to see how the batting lineup is going to continue to potentially evolve. We're not going to get Acuna back, I don't think, for another 7 to 10 days at least. The thing that stands out to me is this, is that you batted Alex Verdugo and you batted Eli White there over the past few days. At this point, I know Austin Riley is struggling, but I still would just go with your 4 top hitters. I don't necessarily know if that means putting Marcell Ozuna in the leadoff spot. I'm not going to get perhaps that, creative. I know that the idea of like a Verdugo or somebody like that before your big hitters makes sense. But in my opinion, if Verdugo's struggling like he is, Eli White, has been good, but he's still, kind of falling off. It's going to be interesting. I don't really have an answer to what the batting order should look like. I just think that it's going to continue to be an interesting evolution until we get Ronald Acuna Jr. back. But I do like the idea of Drake Baldwin batting near the top than the bottom.
Yeah, especially on Friday when Crochet is on the mound, a lefty. Like typically you could put Ozzie there because Ozzie typically kills lefties, but Ozzie's having the weirdest season. And one of the weirdest, and probably the weirdest part of his season is that he has been god awful as a right-handed hitter against left-handed pitching this year. He's got it's literally like a 10 WRC plus as a left-handed hitter or as a right-handed hitter. So I don't know. I mean, normally that's what I would say. I would say put Ozzie there against Crochet, but maybe you trust the long-term splits versus the short-term splits. I don't know. We'll see what Snit does. There's not a great answer. Is the long and short of it. Against right-handed pitching, I'd probably still stick with Verdugo, but I could see Drake Baldwin being there if he's catching that night. I kind of agree with you. I might just stack Austin Riley, Marcell Ozuna, Matt Olson, and Sean Murphy at the top and just hope for the best. But it's not like those guys are hitting great at the moment either. So I don't know. There's not a great answer. There really is. The great answer is in Gwinnett right now. That's where the great answer is. So, or he's, the other good answer is on an 80-game suspension for PEDs. That's where the other good answer is. So, yeah, Snitch just gonna have to piece it together. I'm with you. I'm very curious to see how the lineup looks for this. all 3 games in Boston, because it really feels like on a daily basis, he just kind of goes with his gut. And I have no clue what it's going to look like any of these 3 games.
Yeah, at the end of the day, just keep it simple. I mean, if AJ Smith-Shawver and Drake Baldwin are doing what they're doing, feature them, go with them, see what happens. Choose if Baldwin is starting or Murphy is starting, choose them in a big at bat late in the game over others. Stack your best hitters up at the top of the order. Just go with what makes sense. You're in a position now to where you are playing winning baseball. At the end of the day, just trust the talent that you have, and I think that's going to make the key difference. Steven, do you have anything else for us? And hey, listen, a content-full edition of the Hammer Territory podcast. Winning certainly helps with that. The idea, though, of not only winning, but also getting even better talent back that's going to help you win more frequently, that's really what makes these podcasts fun. Anything else from you as we wrap up this edition of the Hammer Territory podcast?
No, I would just say this. Now that they're back to 500, and obviously they're back to 500 again because they were back to 500 on Tuesday, and now they're back to 500 again. Now that we've kind of cleared that hurdle, we need to go on like a streak. We need to go on like an 8 of 10 streak to get clear of 500 by a little bit. So it's not like every couple of days we're dropping back below, we're going back above, we're dropping back. Like now that you've cleared this hurdle, you know, they need to go on a little bit of streak. And listen, Boston and Washington aren't like the 2 greatest opponents you're ever going to face. Boston's certainly better than Washington, but like it's not unreasonable to hope for, I think it's a 6-game road trip. Like I don't think 4-2 is crazy. I mean, obviously everybody's going to say 3-3 is probably the fair expectation, but I don't think 4-2 is crazy. And I would love to go 4-2 to get a couple of games clear of 500. So you're not doing this dance every day, but they are back to 500 again. They got to start scoring runs. They need Matt Olson and Austin Riley to be great. The pitching is not going. I mean, the pitching can't keep doing this every single game where they throw a shutout basically the first 5 innings of the game. They need the offense. They need Austin Riley. They need Matt Olson. They need Shawn Murphy. They need Marcell Ozuna. Let's start in Boston because, you know, the right fielder that wears number 13 is going to be back soon. So let's start scoring some runs. Let's get Acuna back. Let's get on a roll.
And the other thing that I'll say is this, one final point, is that we talked about back on April 15th, coming up to May 15th, which we're now at the end of that month stretch of the schedule. We really needed to find a hot streak. We really needed to get going in an easier part of the schedule. Well, we got back to 500. Wish we would have been a little bit above, but I'll take being at 500. This next stretch, May 15th through June 15th, you get Strider back. You get Acuna back. But let's also look at the content, our competition. We play the Nationals again. We're going to play Boston twice. That's fine. Those are winnable series. But you've also got the Phillies, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, the Brewers, as well as the Giants. Those are 5 of the 8 teams in the National League right now that I think are seriously vying for a playoff spot. You could look back on this stretch, and if you have good success against those teams head-to-head, that could really be what helps you truly overcome that cold start to the season. Or if you stay around 500, you could see this stretch of the season being where it was, kind of put the writing on the wall that maybe it's not the playoffs this year. I think the playoffs are still obviously in play. Don't get me wrong there, but this is the time to make the move directly against your competition for those playoffs. It's going to be really fun to see how good the Braves can be against quality competition. You can find myself at StatsSAC on Twitter. You can find Steven at @B_outliers. Find all of our great content across all forms of social media at Hammer Territory, part of the Foul Territory family of podcasts. Until next time, go Braves. We'll talk to you again soon here on the Hammer Territory podcast.